Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. He blonde-haired baby's big blue eyes, full of innocence, looked into his scared father's eyes as he was placed into a crib which was situated in the middle of a ceiling bed. The tiny boy could hear the screams of pain, fear and power, all from different places. He could see the bright colors of the night, the moon glowed eerie red, the sky, deepest of purples, and the green of the beautiful nature. The boy could see the raw strength, now free, that he was so accustomed to, from in the dark and dreary womb, light up the sky with scarlet power that would eventually be known as chakra. The chakra was from a ginormous blood-red fox-like monster with 9 tails. Its size could easily be comparable to a mountain if not bigger. His mother was kneeled on the ground, holding off the giant red beast with chakra chains. The beast was stronger than anything the baby had ever felt in his 15 minutes of life, though the beast's power was the same as the chakra he had been familiarized to in the dark, colorless, black world he was freed from. His mother suddenly lost control of her chains and the beast used this chance to finally kill the cursed family. Hinata. The big blue eyes of the young man widened in fear as his fiancée was stabbed in the stomach, then expanded even more, as if his heart was tearing into two as the sword was pulled up with such force that it ripped out of the young woman's should, cutting her into two. The man started shaking at the sight, his mind shutting down, yet he could only dream of stopping what he was doing to mourn for her death. If he did, he would soon be following her in a much more painful way. Unfortunately, he did flinch. He looked away from his own fight even if it was only for less than a second. It sealed his fate. His once-upon-a-time best friend used this distraction to finally take down the blue-eyed young man. Chidori. The man turned back just in time to see the bright glow of blue of the radiant lightning, jutsu only millimeters from his golden chest coming from the hand of his best friend who was covered in his illusionary blue and red body of Susanoo. Time slowed down for the man. He could hear the chirping of 1,000 birds over the sounds of war and was glad that at least he wasn't going to die with fighting in his ears and the copper scent of blood in his own. Chidori would numb that all out with its specific noise and scent. The baby with the big blue eyes could see it happening before it even started. His mother lost control of the scarlet beast that light up the sky with pain and fear by its roar as it realized what his parents were planning for the monster. Its clawed hand came swinging towards the boy, aiming for his heart. His father was in the middle of the odd hand signs for a seal that would eventually be known to all as the dead demon seal that would end his life when he saw the murderous attack aimed for his newborn son. His mother was breathing heavily with exhortation on her hands and knees facing the ground. Her body was tense and muscles were being readied to jump if needed again despite her fatigue. It was now when she saw the scarlet 9-tailed beast's daggered hands aiming for her son. Visions of his parents jumping into the way of the claw and being stabbed into their stomachs, their life's blood exploding from their bodies, only stopping it centimeters from his neck went past his big blue eyes before the event could even happen. His parents were only just up to jumping. Naruto. The young man's big blue eyes glazed over as he entered his mindscape for the last time. Now he was seeing the sewer lines and the mysterious waters that had always depicted his landscape. He could hear the rush of the water going through the pipes rather well for a dying person, or perhaps he was just imagining it. Kurama, I guess this is goodbye. The almighty red beast no longer scared the young man as it had when he first met the beast that had taken away his parents by its claws. The young man no longer knew how to live without the 9-tailed beast, his constant companion even though they didn't always get along. This could be a goodbye, but it could also be a new start. The man openly showed his confusion on his pained face. He didn't have much time. His peripheral vision was already fading into a white even in his mindscape, but the ringing of the water from the pipes was getting as loud as the beast's voice. Do you want to go out in a big bang and restart from the beginning? Being hit in the heart by Chidori without a counter-attack ready is really kind of lame. The young man replied to the beast, thinking back to the sharp blue lightning attack, realizing that the sound of the water pipes was not the water pipes but the ringing left from the attack. I don't know what you mean by new start and restart, but there is no way that I'm going to die from a simple lightning strike to the heart. I must avenge Hinata's death, the man thought to himself, remembering her love-filled lavender eyes looking into his all those nights ago. She can't just die for no reason. He bit his lip. Release the seal. Release the Sage of Six Paths. Big blue eyes widened, starting at the red beast with disbelief. He was shocked that he even suggested that. However, the ever-increasing tunnel vision scared him, surprisingly, more than the order that the beast gave. But everyone is dead. The red beast finished. All your comrades and friends are dead. I have a plan and it just happens to have a consequence of a big bang. The man hesitated before his hand, rather quickly for a dying person, unzipped his jacket. Since when does the Kyuubi ever have a plan? His fingers placed themselves around the seal. Kurama chuckled at Naruto's remark as he was given back his chakra and the Yondaime's seal was put back into place as a safeguard. I always have a plan, just most of them can't be done alone. The strong wind that came up from behind the young man had no effect as the two stared each other off. Time slowed down as the man's fingers made a twisting motion on his stomach. The water became a raging ocean with large waves crashing into the walls of the sewer and the wind howled over their ears. Whatever the beast was planning was the man's last resort. Naruto. A white light blinded the blue-eyed babe, which was soon replaced by black splodges and the sight of his parents still jumping into the way of the oncoming beast's claws. The boy knew what was going to happen. His parents would die after his father seal half the beast's power inside of the boy before bringing the rest of it with himself to the afterlife. He saw it in his vision along with his mother not able to survive the stab to the stomach and that he would become a Jinchuriki, though he had no idea as to how he knew the word. But the beast stopped. The howling wind froze. His parents were not stabbed, but fell back to the ground with no more damage than they had before the jump. And he felt his mind slowly become part of another, stronger, older one. And at the same time, the last thing he saw was the beast suddenly fading at the same pace his mind was. The young man stared around at the sewer as more recent memories were sent to his head of the night he was born, as if a shadow clone from that time just dispelled and only now gave the memories to the original. But the odd thing was that it was as if he was there. Technically, but he was too young to remember it. He only knew what he was told by his parents' spirits, and it was in their point of views. He could remember the emotions in his father's eyes as the man put his young self into the ceiling crib and the loving but fearful face of his mother as she cried next to him. He could remember the feeling of exiting the darkness only to be taken into the hands of Obito in his mask and robes, then being thrown up high into the air, death before his early eyes, then being saved by his, obviously by scent, father, and the horrid feeling in his stomach due to Haraigen. His big blue eyes narrowed in realization. He could see again and his mindscape was the same as before. From what he could see, the sewer's corridors were in the same place, the water pipes on the wall were all the right sizes and Kurama. He ran down the never-ending tunnels towards where the Yondaime's seal was to find the blood-colored beast, now 3 times bigger than normal, laying down with his front legs crossed to make a rest for his head. The beast's eyes were closed. The Yondaime Hokage's seal won't last forever with my new body and extra chakra reserves. What did you do? The man finally found his voice. We merged together with our past selves. The beast didn't even open his eyes. The young man screwed his face up in confusion. What are you talking about? The stronger of the two, ourselves, took over the weaker of the two, our past selves, and became one. The beast explained. My younger self's chakra has been added to my current one, the same with you. The beast started to explain the basics of why he was so much bigger and what had happened. He explained that when the masked Obito had made him attack the village, half his chakra was sealed away with the Shinigami by the 4th Hokage, meaning that he was originally twice as big as the young man was used to. The jutsu took the stronger mentalities, the young man and the smaller beast, and made them take over the weaker, the man when he was younger and the original mountain-sized beast, but at the same time added the two's chakras together. The younger and older mon's chakra were added together to form one man, and the larger and smaller beast's chakra were added together to form one beast. The beast explained that since he was a Biju, chakra monster, then his physical body was made out of chakra, therefore his full power plus half his power made him 1.5 times stronger than when he was originally. Meaning he was 3 times stronger than what the man was used to. Naruto, the beast sighed, looking the man right in the eye, hoping not to repeat himself. Look outside. So the young man did, and saw what he least was expecting. The baby's big blue eyes, full of knowledge and experience, looked past the crib he was currently in, past the setting for the 8 trigram seal and onto his parents who were lying on top of each other, staring at the place above a giant footprint as if something as big as a mountain just disappeared before their eyes. It was only now that the older mind of the baby understood the beast's message and his new memories from when he was born. Oh, by restart, you meant time travel. The baby Naruto thought to himself inside his 18-year-old mind as he stared at his still-alive parents who were doing the same to the place where the 9-tailed fox once stood. Kushina's and Minato's eyes were wide with shock. The Kyuubi just disappeared right before their eyes. Something the size of a mountain, if not bigger, just disappeared. Simply disappeared. Vanished. Gone. He can't just disappear. Kushina's panicked remark sounded more like a question as she tried to get up, but the exhaustion too much, so she used the second to have a rest, but her body was tense and ready to try and jump up if needed. My barrier isn't broken, so he couldn't have escaped. Kushina, calm down. Minato pulled the two of them up before scouting the large area inside Kushina's chain barrier. Can you sense him? I can't. If the two new parents had turned around and checked on their newborn son, they would have seen the glowing 8 trigrams seal on his once clear stomach just before it faded away underneath his skin. Unfortunately, they were being unnecessarily cautious and were still looking for the giant Kyuubi who was already sealed away. Where? Sarutobi Hiruzen muttered to himself, ignoring the same questions that were coming out of his subordinates' mouths as he looked around. His eyes darting round the far mountains and hills, through the trees and bushes, and back in the direction of Konoha, who now had all its lights out. Kushina, he finally yelled, let us in. The Yondaime Hokage and the ex-Jinchuriki looked at the old Sandaime Hokage before each other. Yes, Hokage-sama. The red-hot habanero slowly dragged herself to the edge of the barrier, cautiously releasing that section of it. If it attacks again, your deaths aren't on my hands. She tried to lighten up the atmosphere. At the same time, Minato released the half-formed dead demon seal before it killed anything and took his son off the ceiling crib, holding him close. Naruto-chan, the Kyuubi's gone. He comforted his surprisingly quiet son, telling him that his parents were safe, that he wouldn't have to hold the burden of becoming a Jinchuriki. The man looked into his son's big blue eyes, the same color as his own, but they no longer held the innocence that the boy had only a minute earlier. He blinked a couple of times before it hit him. He looks broken. The elder blonde thought. His eyes look like he knows what happened. Kushina, one of the two shinobi, cried when the woman collapsed on the Sandaime. Minato dropped his train of thought for the moment and ran over to the others after dispelling the ceiling crib with an almost asleep Naruto in his arms. Underscore. Equals. 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 Underscore. He hated it. He hated it. He hated it. The cursed nappy change. He hated it. Even after 2 months of it, Naruto still could not wait to be potty trained. No, 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 no. He cried as Kushina leaned down for the kill. Naruto only voiced one more, no, before he couldn't do anything but laugh. Kushina couldn't help but giggle with the tiny baby as she blew raspberries onto his bare stomach in the middle of changing his nappy. Tita PM. Tita PM. Minato smiled at Naruto's cry of what he assumed to be Stop, as he was laying on the green and blue change table. Thankfully, in Naruto's case, Kushina finished her assault and completed changing his nappy. Now, she said as she lifted the blonde-haired baby high, what should Naru-chan wear today? The baby inwardly cringed at the enthusiasm in his mother's voice. He loved family life, even though Kurama was always laughing at him. But he was not a baby. And why didn't Kushina, as well as the Kyuubi, understand this fact? I'm a big boy. Naruto cursed at Kurama's inward remark. I am not thinking like a little kid. Ooh. The woman cooed as she pulled out a green frog Y jumpsuit from her son's clothes drawer. He hasn't worn this one yet. Once the red-haired woman finished dressing her babe, she turned to her husband with a plan in mind. I will have a better chance at getting out with Naruto at my side. He's finally 2 months old and he hasn't even seen the village you run, she hissed, hiding her message of, it's been 2 months since the attack and I want to go home. Ever since the attack, the search for the masked Uchiha and the missing Kyuubi was a constant mission for every shinobi in the village's forces, and because of this, the two Hokage had decided to hide the former Jinchuriki out of the village for everybody's protection until the two enemies were found or it was safe enough that they wouldn't attack again. However, Kushina was not patient. It was a miracle that the two had managed to keep her in hiding for so long. The woman took her boredom out on entertaining Naruto, teaching him how to talk, walk and go to the loo. However, it was way too early for the baby to even try. So in her spare time, she would ignore Minato or prank the man, depending on her mood, as revenge. Kushina-chan, we've talked to Boo. Minato, I protected myself, you and Konoha against a biju right after I gave birth, and had it extracted. And it wasn't just any old biju, it was the Kyuubi. Most people would die from an extraction of a biju. She yelled at him, holding the now crying baby close. You and I both know that I could easily protect Naruto and myself at home just as well as I could here. And if the Uchiha and Kyuubi haven't turned up by now, it's highly unlikely they will jump out at us as soon as we walk out of this safe house. Kushina, I just don't want anything to happen to you both, Minato tried to reason. I just don't want the Uchiha Madara look-alike to go after you thinking you resealed the Kyuubi in yourself. The man kept on talking about why his wife would be safer in the safe house outside of Konoha and how Konoha would be safer with her out of it at the moment. Kushina simply ignored all of this in favor of having her own one-sided conversation with Naruto. All my friends are probably thinking I'm dead, Naru-chan. Kushina mumbled to the baby that had calmed down as if she couldn't even hear the man speaking. Both of the Uzumakis turned their heads at the same time towards Minato with the same sadistic grin on their faces. And we think Minato-sama wants a stir-crazy wife and child on his hands, because by the look of it, he won't ever let them free of the unjustified confinement. Fine. Minato finally cracked, throwing his arms into the air. Wait, that all we had to do? The woman questioned her blonde-haired son, Tt Ebane. She ran out of the room with such excitement that only Horizon could match her speed, dragging Naruto with her, to get ready. Equals. 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 It took a long time for Uzumaki Naruto to get used to his new, smaller, body and his new limit of movement. The only good thing about his new baby body was his senses. His believed that his current sense of smell would be even better than Kakashi's. Even though there was a silver lining around the cloud was still a very big and dark one. His arms and legs never did what he willed them to do, and he often found his toe in his mouth or waking up because his small body couldn't breathe well on its stomach. Worst of all, being a baby gave him a short attention span, even shorter than what his was already. He couldn't concentrate on one thing for more than 2 minutes. Ignoring his uncontrolled behavior, 18-year-old Naruto could see the tension between his parents and could only guess why. He had quickly noticed that his mother never left him alone and that he had yet to get out of the safe house and into Konoha, the same with his mother. He assumed that the tension between his parents was because his father was isolating the two of them and knowing his own personality was like Kushina's. There were goods and bads to being the size of a baby with the knowledge of an 18-year-old from the future. Originally, one might have assumed that with such innocence, the baby could easily get information another would never be able to. However, being the size of a baby also make the 18-year-old boy process his knowledge as fast as a baby would, though this did not happen when he was in his own mindscape where he was his true age. However, when Naruto was not in his mindscape, he could think, move arm, left, and a whole minute later his arm would move to the right, so one could imagine that by the time one thinks, listen and remember, the conversation one wanted to spy on would be over. It was the opposite with trying to talk. As soon as Naruto thought of something outside his mindscape, it came out of his mouth using an unpracticed tongue with uzan, aras. It gives the saying, can't you think before you talk, a clear answer of, no. Dot colon colon 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 dot. Baby Naruto could see the differences of the greens in the trees and bushes, and the brightness of the flowers almost blinded him. The smells amazed him to no extent. He could not smell his father outside. He was assuming that the man always used Harem to get to the house, but he could smell the traces of the Sandaime, his mother and his own from weeks ago, the overpowering sense of the flora and the fauna, as well as their poop, as clearly as black and white. And the sounds, he could hear so much, the chirps of many different types of birds, the trees swaying, the leaves brushing against each other, the animals and the differing step patterns of his parents. It took a far while for the smell of civilization to reach the baby's nose or its sound to reach his ears, but when it did, it slapped him in the face, hard. The first thing he noticed other than the strength of the smells was the human waste. He suddenly couldn't wait to grow up and his sense of smell to weaken. I feel sorry for Kakashi-sensei. No wonder he always wears a mask. It, probably to block his sense of smell. Other than that, the smell of the different foods was amazing. He could differ each and every smell. As they were getting closer to Konoha, he knew he would have to learn to block certain ones out. Naruto held a wide grin as his parents and he were greeted at the gate of Konoha by Chunin. He laughed at their expressions when they saw their Hokage. His father had been sulking the whole afternoon because of one last revenge prank the two pranksters played on him right before they left the safe house. Once the family had walked past the entrance, the baby's mouth dropped and his big blue eyes widened at the colors at the village. Hey! I don't remember Konoha being this bright. The four faces of the Hokages blazed upon the cliff protecting the topside of the village. The scarlet of the Hokage Tower really brought out the truth of the will of fire. The intensity of the green leaves would easily remind one of the strength of the first Hokage, and the caring faces of the villages brought reality into just how much they must have hated the Kyuubi to treat Uzumaki Naruto the way they would have if their Yondaime Hokage died. But that of cause didn't happen, so hopefully Namikaze Naruto, even though the Uzumaki inside was still a Jinchuriki, would forever be treated like everyone else. Naru-chan likes it. It's nothing like he's ever seen. This is your new home, Naruto. Kushina yelled, waving her blonde-haired baby around and pointing to several different colorful places that the baby's eyes couldn't follow. When the redhead stopped, Naruto gave her the look. Yes, that look, that extremely adorable look. So of course she just did it again before cooing him, gaining quite the attention. Thank you, Otu-chan. Kushina threw herself, Naruto still in her arm, at the quiet Minato who had been shying away from Okawa-san at the time. Firstly we'll pop in to see the Sandaime, and then show Naruto the house. And tomorrow we'll show Naruto the village and show Naruto to everyone else. I can't wait for the go home and simply relax part of that list. Kushina rolled her eyes at the father of her son, trying her best not to laugh at what was written on his no longer plain forehead. Naruto couldn't help but laugh at the faces his father was getting from many of the villagers as the family walked through the center of town, towards the Hokage Tower. Freedom, he cried, but it came out wrong to everyone else's ears. Once we talk to Gigi, we go home and grow up. Then stop Obito and the Akatsuki and save Sasuke and his clan and, ma, why did Sasuke's clan die anyway? Minato looked accusingly at his son from behind his wife, ignoring the odd looks he was getting from the villagers. What on earth is he talking about, and what on earth has Kushi-chan taught him? He thought after hearing words like Guo Yup, Orbiitu, Sabe Sasuke and Clom Dai. It's too much like grow up, Obito, something about the name Sasuke and something about someone or something dying. Naruto was giggly by the time the family reached the Hokage Tower, his eyes darting to everything and everyone, subconsciously noticing differences like a pot plant here or painting there to take note of later. Gigi, Gigi, he sang as the doors to the office came into his sights. His hand went to the doorknob to try to open it, but his arm quickly gave up. Kushina laughed at the boy's attempt to open the door, but I haven't taught him that yet, he's going to be a troublesome toddler, she thought before opening the door for the boy in her arms. Hiruzen-san. The said man looked up from his desk full of paperwork towards the intruder, Kushina. His eyes hovered over the curious baby in the woman's arms and the man with idiot written on his forehead behind the two before going back to the woman. I do not want to know how you got yourself out of this one, Kushina. The woman giggled, thinking back on her prank she made right before they left. It really wasn't her fault though, it was Mina-chan who left the skin permanent marker out of the bench. She said innocently, Naru-chan and I just happened to find it and Naru-chan wanted to test it out, so we did. Hiruzen rolled his eyes, not noticing the said pen, hidden in the baby's arms. Suddenly the red-hot habanero disappeared from the old man's sight and his head was forcibly pulled to face the roof. A small hand with a marker pen appeared in his sight and the tip of said pen was felt on his forehead before the hand disappeared and his head was released. Our revenge is complete. The old man spun around in his swivel chair to find Kushina with Naruto sitting up on one of her arms and the skin permanent marker in his small fingers, the boy's hand being guided by the woman's spare one, both of them laughing uncontrollably. What's it say? See ya at home, Mina-chan, Gigi. The pranksters both cried before escaping the room, not wanting to get into deep shit. Then again, both the Hokages deserved it for isolating the two. Yours is probably worse than mine. Oh really, Mina-chan? Hiruzen's eyebrow rose. Yes, really. Gigi. What's it say? It can't be as bad as yours. It says, I'm a nincompoop. What's mine say? I'm an idiot. Aw damn, now we have two Kushinas in the village. At least they're keeping it. Rated. I wonder for just how long. The house was beautiful compared to the orphanage Naruto lived in when he was tiny. It was a two-story building with cream walls, excluding bedroom walls. The floors were a polished wood, door frames were a dark wood and the furniture to match. There was a photo wall near the front door with bright and colorful frames with smiles to match. What more, it was clean, even Kushina seemed surprised at this. Nay, when did Tu-chan find the time to clean it up, Naruto? Just how dirty was it? Make sure you are never as messy as your Okawa-san, Naru-chan. The woman who was holding the babe said as she finally walked through the front door. Let's hope you have your Otou-san's genes for cleaning as well as his looks. Naruto's sweat dropped. Just how messy are you, Ka-chan? During a quiet tour of the double-story house, which was not the Hokage manor, the lounge room held a neat pile of wrapped-up presents. The lounge was a simple dull green, not too light or dark for stains to stand out when someone came home from a mission and collapse on it, and a TV lay on a cabinet next to the wall, rarely used. Behind the couch was the dining table with 4 chairs around it and the archway into the kitchen. The hallway held the doors to a bathroom, spare room, book room cause it was not big enough to be a library, and a study, all of which he wasn't allowed to go into yet. Upstairs, opened into another hallway leading to his parents' room, another bathroom, a storeroom and the nursery. His room was shown to him last. It was green, green, green. It's not orange. What's wrong, bub? Kushina calmly smiled at the boy. Don't you like the color? Mina-chan and I managed to narrow the choice down to blue, green and red. I guess green isn't your color. Naruto could feel her eyes hover sadly over the adorable green frog Y jumpsuit he was wearing, knowing that it was going to stay until he grew out of it. Only Rock Lee likes green. I want orange. Why wasn't that included in that list? Naruto whined. Why on earth am I acting so damn childish? I'll think about it later. Haha. Shut up, Kurama. We can repaint it. Kushina laid Naruto into his blue and white cot, oblivious to the conversation that included the missing Kyuubi. She ran out of the room before quickly returning with 3 paper cards in her hand. What color do you like, Naru-chan? She asked, thinking that the baby couldn't understand her but hoping that the color card he chooses would end up being his favorite. Oh, if she knew how right she was. The cards were the wrong colors, so Naruto just crossed his arms and made an adorably cute angry face. So Kushina went back to where she came from and returned with cards of all the colors of the rainbow. Without hesitation or a thought, Naruto's hand automatically found itself with the orange color card. The walls need to be orange. He smiled before realization from his 18-year-old knowledge reached his 2-month-old mind. Why are you willing to change the room's color? Yay. I told you, Minato, that the room needed to be orange or red. Not his blue or green. Kushina had a triumphant look on her face as she looked at the wall as if it was her husband. You didn't answer my question. Told ya red is not girly, Minmin-chan. Now you're not even listening to me. And I said orange, not red. I want to talk normally again. Why does everything I say come out wrong? The woman kept on talking to the wall as if it was Minato instead. Underscore. Asterisk. 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 Underscore. The rest of the day was spent going shopping for paint and redesigning the room, though they couldn't start until the two talked to the Yondaime about it, but he didn't come home until dinner. Dinner was the usual for the baby. Milk, but he couldn't help eyeing the food that Kushina had made. It was a feast, hoping for his teeth come up ASAP. That night the baby father snuggled up with him and read a picture book. The book, he'd have to admit, was boring, so instead he listened to the sound of his father's voice, looking up at his face and memorizing all of it. To be truthful, it made the tiny boy really tired, but once he stopped reading he slowly found himself getting his energy back. After the reading session, he was put to bed. It was the first night Naruto slept alone. Usually he would be sleeping in a cot in his parents' room at the safe house since it held no nursery. He hadn't found the time to have a face-to-face talk with Kurama in a while, so now that he did, he took the chance. 2-month-old Namikaze Naruto closed his eyes, slowed his breath and tried to meditate. 18-year-old Uzumaki Naruto opened his eyes only to find himself half submerged in sewer water. The once loud sound of the water rushing through the pipes was no longer roaring in his ears like it had been when he had died in the no longer existence future world. Uncrossing his legs, he rose to his feet and stretched. I haven't been in here for so long, Dadbao. It's so good to be able to move at will again. He said out aloud, slowly making his way towards the giant gate that held the even bigger Kyuubi. I saved Ka-chan and Tu-chan, but now what? I should do something about Obito and the Akatsuki before they get too strong, but I'm too small and weak to do anything at the moment. Then what? His thoughts suddenly headed towards his past life. Hinata. Please, Hina-chan. Go back. A golden Naruto with orange, toad-like, eyes begged his fiancé. The woman had just come down from the Hokage monument safe houses into the crater that only hours earlier held the rebuilt Konoha. All was left in the dip was blood, guts and death. I don't want anything to happen to you, You haven't been feeling well in the past few weeks, so you have to stay off the battlefield until you're better. Naruto K-kun, stop talking. Something really bad could happen. He stopped when he felt the young lady's hand on his shoulder. Take a breath, calm down. I am not sick. She looked into his deep pools of eyes, calming the man down. Really? Believe me. Datbeo. Nay. The girl's brilliant smile warmed the young man's cold heart. I have something very important to tell you later. The girl's nerves stopped her from saying what she wanted to say. You sure you're not sick? Of course. But you've been puking every morning. Hinata's finger found itself on his lips, her confidence seemingly returning. I will tell you later. Naruto nodded his head before looking back to the battlefield. He and Kakashi were the only able fighters ready for battle in the crater. A recent attack from Zetsu clones turned the crater village into a bloodbath. Everyone else in the crater were medics, quickly dragging off the dead. The alive had already been taken away for treatment. Hinata-chan, you should start heading back up. You know how tiring it is for you to get back up that cliff. Kakashi said as he walked over to the two. Why yes Kakashi-sensei. The girl quickly said her goodbyes before turning around and slowly making her way to the cliff. Too slowly. She never made it to the top. Obito and Sasuke just had to show up. Naruto's eyes fell to the ground. Hinata, you baka. Why didn't you leave earlier? Is your life only worth both my parents and a chance to rewrite the history books? No. You're worth more. Everyone is worth more. Hinata. Naruto's blue eyes widened in fear as his fiance's stomach was stabbed, then they expanded even more as his heart tightened when the sword was pulled up with such force that it ripped out of the young woman's should, cutting her into two. Just what did you need to tell me? His thoughts moved on again to someone else before he could start crying. Sasuke. Naruto's eyes were wide. He's meant to be dead. That damned Kabuto. That damned Uchiha. Uchiha Sasuke's whites in his eyes were now replaced by black, the signs of the Kuchiyos, Endo Tensai, impure world reincarnation jutsu. He now wore a more traditional Uchiha shirt, much like the one he wore in his Genin days, instead of his Orochimaru look-alike shirt. His eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, active and his mind seemingly gone. You bastard. He deserves to rest in peace, not to be forced into more fighting. When Naruto got no reply as he attacked the now slightly younger boy, he cursed. The bastards. They even took your free will away. He inwardly cursed again as the Uchiha blow a fireball his way, the heat already burning his skin and it wasn't even close yet. The young man felt something slide down his cheek, his hand rose to wipe it away. He froze. It was cold and wet. I'm crying. His eyes widened as realization hit him like a punch to the face from Might Guy. They won't even know me, no one will. It will take years to be able to walk and talk again. And even longer to rebuild bonds as strong as the once were with everyone. Are Okawa-chan's and Otu-chan's lives really worth so much? Aka-chan, what are you crying about now? The young man immediately looked up to find the 8 trigram seal gate in front of him. The piece of paper that held the seal in place was badly yellowing and the ink, fading. You haven't shown up in months and the first time I see you, you're crying just like the baby on the outside does. Hey, firstly, I'm not a baby. And secondly, babies don't start crying with tears until they're 6 months old. And how would you know that? The now 3 times bigger Kurama mocked, although it didn't reach his big red eyes like usual. Is that worry in his eyes? Hinata-chan told me. Does it matter? It was only now that Naruto realized that he'd been standing still ever since he felt his tears. That means he heard everything I said out loud. I was wondering why the lives of my parents were worth so much. His big blue eyes were glued to the ankle-deep water on the ground. Why did I have to lose everything to only get 2 people back? Kurama smiled. Naruto instantly jumped back. Since when does the great 9-tailed fox smile like that? Fear was evident in his voice. You will work out what the girl was going to tell you eventually. His eyes widened and he took another step back. How? You've caught a habit of talking out loud. Kurama's smile put chills down the young man's spine. It held sincerity and understanding, things that really did not fit in on the beast's face. You do have to start again from the beginning with all your bonds. But it was not your parents' lives that replaced your lost friends. Naruto could feel more tears exploding from his eyes, but he had given up hiding them. Their deaths just happened to be happening when we took over our past selves. The effect was that they ended up not dying. Is it just me, or are you becoming a little bit too cooperative and understanding for your own good? Naruto choked out between tears with suspicion clear in his voice. What the beast just said broke his heart. If they took over their younger selves even a second later, he wouldn't have parents, meaning that he would have lost everyone and everything for nothing. Wouldn't you usually just say, your parents were still going to die anyway? The reasons are for another time. The odd smile left the gigantic red beast's face as quickly as it came, and his mouth returned to its usual cocky grin. What are you here for? Because you do know that your baby body can't sleep while your mind is in here. I know that, Dadbao. He quickly washed his face with the water on the ground. The only signs of his tears were his bloodshot eyes. I was wondering, what in the world do we do now? That depends on what you want to do. You've never come to me for help before, so why start now? Naruto rolled his eyes. Because I haven't been in a situation that you were the only capable thing I could talk to before, Dadbao. Feelin' lonely, boy. Everyone feels like that when time travel is involved. Kurama explained, mockingly. What you have to decide now is if you are going to tell anyone who you are, idiot, and if yes, then who are you going to tell? I need to tell everyone. How am I meant to stop Obito without any help? Will everyone believe you? Me. The blonde's eyebrow rose. What are you, my conscience? Very funny, boy. Since you are too stupid to have one, I have to ask the questions you forget to answer. Quote, comma, quote. Just answer the question. The young man sat cross-legged on the ground, ignoring the cold water, thinking. No. He finally came to a conclusion. No one would believe that I'm from the future, no matter what I say, even if I show that I have you sealed inside me. And what would happen if you did that, Baka? Kurama's patience was fading. I would be treated the same. Naruto looked up, straight into the gigantic beast's red eyes. How do we stop Obito before he gets too strong without any help? What happened the night you were reborn? Kurama pondered. What does everyone else think happened? The young man's eyes fell back to the ground as he yawned, gaining Kurama's attention. You should go. Your baby body needs sleep. Think on it later. Fine. The blonde faded out of the sewer, leaving the nine-tailed fox to his own thoughts. The seal is disintegrating quicker than I thought it would. It should have survived another 12 years, but by the look of it, it will only last 6, maybe less. Underscore. 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 Naruto woke up the next morning to see narrowed blue eyes, the same color as his own. Too tan. The man's eyes narrowed more. Can you understand me? He finally asked, pronouncing his words slowly with suspicion that Naruto's 2-month-old mind didn't comprehend straight away. Ha. Of course I can, too tan. Why are you asking? The elder blonde lifted an eyebrow as he pulled the tiny boy out of the pale blue and white cot and held him out in front of himself. Wink your eye if you can understand what I am saying. Naruto stared to the man, blankly. You expect me to be able to wink? Ya know, I'm only 2 months old. Ah, winking is this. Minato winked excessively, using a lot of muscles to make the action seem bigger. The baby didn't even try. Are you crazy? I can't even control my arms, let alone my eyes. Minato stared his child straight in the eye for another long moment before pulling the baby close. Sorry for scaring you. Ha, I was meant to be scared. His 18-year-old mind finally reached his baby's mind. Shit. My too tan's the Hokage. Of course he's bound to notice that I'm smarter than I should be. Shit, 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 shit. Naruto could only curse to himself as his father carried his tiny body downstairs to the kitchen to join his mother for breakfast. Equals 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 equals. A smile graced Namikaze Minato's face as he pushed a loose strand of his wife's hair behind her ear. He watched as her chest rose and fell with her breaths. He rolled over onto his back, pulling the sheet of the bed up to his chin, and stared at the ceiling. I'm bored. The man couldn't sleep. The clock only said 5:30 a.m. and he had half an hour before he had to get up, but he was as restless as all hell. His thoughts fell to his son who was in the next room, firstly thinking of the boy's bored reaction from the reading session last night, but then he entertained himself by listening to his voice. He wondered if the boredom was due to the boring story or not being able to understand it. Then his thoughts went downhill, going to the night that he was born when he looked into the tiny baby's eyes for the second time that night. The first time baby Naruto opened his eyes was when he was placed into the crib situated into the middle of the 8 trigrams ceiling bed by his father. The second time Minato saw his open eyes were when he was taken off the ceiling bed, but his eyes were different this time. It was only just over a minute between the 2 times the father saw his son's eyes, but they were different each time. The first time they were innocent, the second time they were full of knowledge and experience, if that was possible. Minato didn't like it. Did the Kyuubi do something to him when he froze? Right before the 9-tailed fox faded into nothingness, he froze. The beast was in the middle of aiming his claws for the baby, but then he stopped, as if it couldn't move. The beast's face showed the weirdest expression before it faded away: fear. Fear, shock, confusion and pain. Pain as if it was being sealed away. Why would he be scared? Why was he experiencing pain? Minato threw the sheet off his body and flung himself up so that he was sitting on the side of the bed. After putting his slippers on his feet, he left the room and silently entered his son's. The baby's room was dark, but the Hokage had no trouble finding the cot. The man stared at the sleeping babe for a good 5 minutes before he kneeled next to the wooden cot with his arms resting on the top of the safeguard fence. What happened to my baby? Since when does such a tiny thing know the basics of opening a door, or know how to reply to another person? His thoughts were on the tiny baby's chatter. He shouldn't be talking yet. Babies start making sounds like laughter and cooing around 2 to 3 months, and they don't start imitating sounds until 4 to 6 months, let alone replying to others talking to him even if it was only baby chatter. Even Kakashi wasn't this advanced at this age. Minato still could see Naruto's tiny face in his mind as the boy looked up at him just after the Kyuubi disappeared. He could still see that broken look in the boy's eyes whenever he looked at him. I don't like it. The door creaked as Kushina opened it. She didn't say anything for a moment, admiring the look on her oblivious husband who still hadn't noticed her presence. Good morning. It's 6. He jumped but made no other movement. I'll start making breakfast for you. Kushina left silently, leaving the door open a crack. The tiny baby's eyes slowly fluttered open at the sound of his mother's voice, only to see his father's curious face. Aahn. The boy questioned. It's almost like he's saying, 2, and, tan, maybe. Minato thought. Let's check. Can you understand me? He said slowly, carefully pronouncing his words. Ha, h, the baby asked, or fh ors my ahnm, aahn. Irou a sning. Did he just reply, I knew it, either a genius or, Minato didn't like his train of thought. There is no way you could be the Kyuubi, Naruto. Right. He got up and leaned over the side of the wooden cot, lifting the baby out and holding him under the arms out in front of himself. He can hold his head up. Babies can't do that until they're about 4 months old. He could see how the child had trouble doing so because of his weak neck, but he could also see that he was trying. Let's see what you do now. Wink your eye if you can understand what I am saying. The baby's shocked expression nearly shocked the older man. You're smart enough to know how to open a door, but you don't know what winking is. He would have said blink, but the child could have just blinked because it needed to. Ooehpetm ma uiabu ouiinck, Ah no, my mani oou mons ourd. Ah, Minato could see the boy trying to say words. Winking is this, he closed one eye at the boy and opened it slowly. Ouu Razzie. The boy cried, there was an emotion on the boy's eyes that the Yondaime Hokage couldn't name. My rnevnn Norl iams, eta on I iced. Why couldn't he name that emotion? It just didn't look right on in the tiny boy's face. The Hokage stared straight into his son's eyes, looking for the answer. What is it? What is it? It was then when a muscle twitched on the tiny face. That could only mean two things, annoyance or fear. It was this that kicked the yellow flash out of his trance. He realized that even though the child was way beyond his time in knowledge, he was still a 2-month-old baby that should not be held the way the older man was holding him. Pulling the boy close, Minato used his arms to warm the baby. Sorry for scaring you. Minato left the room with the now babbling baby in his arms in the hopes of getting some breakfast. Hopefully I'm wrong. 2 months and 1 week. It was a week since Namikaze Naruto was brought home from the safe house and just as long since he realized that his father suspected himself and that his mother seemed as oblivious to it all as another Uzumaki would have been if he wasn't the center of all the attention. Naruto aimed his hand towards the toy hanging on the brightly colored mobile. Hit it. Hit it. It hit. The baby's giggles echoed around the nursery room. The room was now a pale, cream orange color with dark wood furniture to match. Minato would not have a bright orange colored room in the house, but everything else in the room was orange or a color that went with it. Yay! Go Naru-chan! Kushina exclaimed. Naru-chan resisted the urge to roll his eyes. Yanoka-tan, moving my arm the way I wanted to, is my accomplishment. Why on earth are you so excited? Now, what one is orange? The baby's hand quickly found itself on the orange-colored tiger without any trouble. I wonder why you find it so easy to find the color orange, Naruto. You've always been able to distinguish the color. That's 'cause orange is the best color in the world. The baby yelled, laughing, but that is a good question, Ka-tan. It is so easy to make my arms do what I want them to do when the color orange is involved, but the answer is because orange is awesome. Kushina just giggled at the boy, now the purple one. Naruto's chubby hand reached out towards the purple-colored owl and missed, hitting several of the other toys. He tried again. Purple was always the hardest. For some reason, much like his hand liked and was attracted to the color orange, his hands always had trouble trying to get anything purple. The young man inside the baby hated it. Purple was meant to be Hinata's color, making it his second favorite color. He shouldn't be having trouble trying to grab it. Naruto jumped out of his thoughts to see the back of Kushina's red head before she faced him again. Okay, bub, time to have a feed and a read, then we have to go to bed. Oh, but your milk tastes funny. I want ramen. Uzumaki Naruto hated feeding time even more than the cursed nappy change. Rephrase that, it wasn't that he hated it, his 18-year-old mind found it embarrassing for himself as well as his mother if she ever found out just how old his mind was. Alright, that's enough now. Hey, I'm not full. That's why you should give me ramen. Kushina giggled as she fixed up her top and placed the tiny boy in his cot to pull out a book from the shelf. The one she chose had short blue people on the front. Pulling the boy out of the cot again, she sat herself in the white rocking chair and started reading. To Naruto's amazement, the way his mother read the story really made it interesting. He listened to her voice, watched her face and let the story of the tiny blue Smurfs go into his head while at the same time, trying to remember the theme song from that one episode of the tiny blue people he had watched in his past life. The book finished rather abruptly in Naruto's opinion, as well as too soon. He was put back into the cot and the book was put away. Night-night Naru-chan, his mother crooned and waved a goodbye as she walked to the nursery room's door. Good night, Naruto, Minato said as he poked his head through the crack in the door. With one more look over her shoulder, Kushina left the room, closing the door, with Minato trailing on behind her. Night, night, the baby yelled back. Now, what to do? Ka-tan doesn't usually put me to bed this early and I'm not tired. Comma, it's too quiet. Comma, la, la 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 la. Comma, Uzumaki Naruto is the most awesome Hokage ever. Uzumaki Naruto is the orange Hokage. Datbeo. Comma, 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 I'm bored. Datbeo. Comma, 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 let's piss off Kurama. Finally deciding in what to do, Naruto wriggled to get comfy, pulled up his sheet then put his hands together over his chest to meditate. He hadn't relearned how to enter his mindscape while his physical body slept. Waking up in his mindscape in his 18-year-old body, all Naruto could say was, I'm a friggin' idiot. Now that is the last thing I ever thought you would admit. Since when do you come here to piss me off? Since never, Datbeo, defended Naruto, turning his head to the side so that he could see the beast in his peripheral vision. He had awoke standing up, leaning on the gate that held his now willing tenant locked in. That's what I thought. The nine-tailed beast maliciously smirked. Very funny. Kurama-chan, the young man waved his hands about in the air, his head facing forward again, away from the beast. Do you want me to decapitate you? Yes please. But that will kill you too, so what's the point of that? I'll just castrate you then. Like hell you're doing that. His hands quickly found themselves covering his privates as he jumped from his leaning position so that he was now completely facing the Kyuubi, a red glow slowly coming into the color of his tan face. Kurama chuckled, you're picking up childish habits. I'd hate to see you when you're a toddler. Very funny. Naruto replied sarcastically, rolling his eyes as he turned away from the giant gate that separated the two before leaning back onto it in his original position. Hey, Kurama, when do you think I'll be able to talk? Quote, comma, quote. I mean, when do babies start talking? What age? How would I know? I don't know. Naruto backfired, you're just smart so. All I know on this subject is that children at the age of 3 are still using very simple words. 3. That's a long time. Since we apparently have the time to be idiots and talked about baby improvement, Kurama rolled his eyes and raised his head from his arms. Let's start planning what we're going to do. The young man's eyebrow rose and he stopped leaning on the bars of the gate to turn around and face the fox. Plan for what? He asked. Idiot, what are we going to do now? The nine-tailed fox rolled his eyes. He was laying down in the water with his arms crossed making a pillow for his head. I asked you this a week ago. No you didn't. You just asked. What happened the night you were born? What does everyone else think happened? Or something like that. Have you got an answer to that, idiot? Ignoring the idiot part, the blonde started thinking. Whops, I forgot to think of an answer. The old you disappeared and forced to be resealed into me cause I came back, you came back and so did the Yondaime's seal. That is what happened. Now what does everyone think happened? You disappeared. And, I have no idea. No one else has an idea, either. So what do humans do when they don't know the truth? When the Kyuubi got no response he continued, they make up their own conclusions and try to bring truth into them. Okay. So what does all of this do for my plan? Idiot, you can use it to your advantage. Why do you want to help me again? Now that is for a later time. You said that last time. Just grab out a pen and paper and start planning what you want to change and what you want to keep the same. Fine. Pulling out a pen and pocket-sized notepad from who knows where, the blonde-haired young man did just what the gigantic beast told him to. Sitting down, leaning on the bars of the gate, he let his thoughts run wild as the beast became quiet again. Need to stop Obito and save Sasuke. That's what I'm certain on. I don't want Neji to die again, nor have to become a prick so that I don't have to kick his butt later, so I can't let Hinata get kidnapped on her 3rd birthday so Neji's dad doesn't have to die. I won't let Hinata die again. He started writing his ideas down in the book, thinking of more as he went. Don'ts. Stop Itachi from killing the Uchihas, in 7.5 years. Kill Uchiha Obito, ASAP. Don't let Hinata get kidnapped, December 27th in 3 years. Don't let Orochimaru get Sasuke, in 12 years. Kill Orochimaru, ASAP. Kill Kabuto, ASAP. Help Gaara, ASAP. Kill Danzo, ASAP, etc. etc. Dues. Stay on Sasuke's and Sakura's Genin team with Kakashi as the sensei. Keep Ero Sennin as a sensei. Make sure Sakura becomes a medic. Go out with Hinata. Don't let Gigi die. Become Hokage, etc. etc. After a good hour, the list was 8, double-sided, pages long. Is that everything? Kurama's deep voice pulled Naruto out of his now empty thoughts. Everything that I can think of, I can add to the list as I go. Kurama rolled his eyes at the boy's simple thinking. Do I need, he yawned, to do anything else? Go to bed, get strong again, and then act on your list. That's all. For now, yes. Night. Naruto's older body quickly faded away from the mindscape as he finally let his younger body fall into sleep. Underscore. Asterisk. 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 Underscore. 2 months and 2 weeks. La 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 la. Naru-chan, where on earth did you hear the Smurfs theme song? Kushina said as she walked down the main street of Konoha with her child on her hip and groceries in her other hand. The shopping street was rather busy and Uzumaki Naruto was glad to be being carried, though it instead of squeezing through, which was what he would have been doing when he was young. The different smells amazed the boy since he was still getting used to his senses. He could easily smell the different foods as well as people, but his focus was on the smell of the cooking ramen being made by Tuki at Ichiraku's. His ears weren't as good as his nose, thankfully, otherwise he'd find himself deaf rather quickly, but the chatter from all the people around made it hard to think, so instead he just sang to himself to block them out. And very loudly at that. La 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 la. Ah, isn't that adorable? Kushina turned around, almost dropping her bags. Murasaki-chan. Behind them was a beautiful, tall woman with eggplant-colored hair that reached her waist, her eyes seemingly seeing everything, and her robe did nothing to hide her heavily pregnant form. Kushina-chan, how have you been? I haven't seen you in almost a year. The woman's smile showed that she and Kushina knew each other well. Whose adorable child is that? Kushina's chest filled with pride as she unconsciously straightened her back. This is Naruto, my son. You're going to have one too, she stated, now looking down at the other woman's stomach. Yep. Who's Naruto-chan's father? The dark-haired woman started cooing the baby. Hey, have I seen you before? I swear I have. Who are you? I can swear you were younger when I last saw you. Who are you? Naruto yelled as he looked into Murasaki's, Hyuga, identifiable eyes. He talks a lot. He is my son, so of course he should. The redhead giggled, putting her finger on her lips. Shish, he's Minato's. Quote, comma, quote. Quote, comma, quote. What? Kushina grabbed the woman's arm and dragged the two away from the now staring crowd. I said to be quiet. She hissed as she reached an alleyway. Since when did you get together with the Hokage? Shish. She suspiciously looked around, checking if anyone was around to hear. Minato and I have been secretly going out for years, you know that. We got married a year ago. And you didn't tell me. You'd only just left on your mission, so how could I tell you? Kushina defended. Quote, comma, quote. By the way, now the mission is over, what was it? Kushina's purple eyes narrowed. Or aren't you finished and I wasn't the only one lying? Sweat rolled down the other woman's forehead. I'm not finished. Never. The woman's voice faded away before she could finish. Me. What was that? I'm not finished and I'll never be. Murasaki's face was screwed up with guilt. She finally looked up when she hadn't got a reply, only to see the cogs in her friend's brain winding up. So, then tell me, what is you mission? Kushina finally said, leaning into the dark purple-haired woman's face. I had to marry, ha he see. Ha. What? I had to get married. Ah. Kushina nodded her head. Wait, what? To who? Don't tell me it was an arranged marriage. You and your stupid Hyuga customs. Who is it? Hi, what? Obnoxious much. Kushina-chan. Hiyashi. Her eyes widened in realization. Hyuga Hiyashi. Like Hyuga-san. Like the Hyuga clan head. Yes. The elder said that my sisters and my genes would be good for the main branch, so. That's cruel. I'm going to go and talk to this elder, and tell him what I think right now. 'Cause I think he's an asshole. The red-hot habanero stalled out of the alleyway with her blonde son on her hip, her arm with her groceries swinging harshly with her hand in a fist. You're going down, Hiyashi. Murasaki ran after the now dangerous Junin, Kushina. We can't do anything about it now. So that is his child. He is gonna die. The redhead didn't stop, stomping towards the Hyuga compound like a monster. Oh, you're going down, Hiyashi. Kushina, please don't, the pregnant woman begged, running alongside the other. Calm down. Her sudden strong voice stopped the other. So you're certain? Are you sure you don't want me to get up them? Didn't you have a crush on the man down the road? I'm certain. You're my teammate. You should know when I've made up my mind or not. And I've gotten over Tamaki-san ever since I saw him walking down the road with two bimbos in the red light district. Hey, there's only one person in the world that I know that you could be. But I never know you were in my Ka-tan's team. Naruto cried out in realization, his mind only just comprehending that this was Hiyashi's wife. Fine, I'll walk with you until we reach the compound. How's the baby? Do you know anything? Kicking is all hell and wanting to get out. Murasaki said. Kushina laughed. Do ya know if it's a little boy or little girl? I want it to be a surprise, but Hiyashi wants to know so that he can start preparing stupid training in main clan stuff. I don't even think he cares about finding out the gender to name the baby. Forget about him. He's in. Hazashi is cool but Hiyashi's in. The two giggled together with Naruto joining in as soon as his mind processed the words. So, what names are you thinking of? 'Cause Hiyashi doesn't seem to care, I have two of each gender. For a boy, I have Huyu and Haro. For a girl, I love the name Takoro but it doesn't go with Hyuga, that's why I was hoping to marry outside the clan, but anyway, I have Hanabi and my favorite, Hinata. Hey, you're Hinata's Ka-tan, equals, 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 equals. 3 months. Uzumaki Naruto was as bored as all hell. Being a baby was not the most enjoyable pastimes. He would sit there wanting to talk but did nothing about it, believing that he would eventually be able to when every other baby could. He found himself listening and smelling everything around because he couldn't always see it. Well, the simplicity of his life gave the baby a chance of looking into how his parents acted, what they did during their time and other family-orientated things. Knock. Knock. The baby was laying in a rocker playing with a small wooden toy maraca in the living room. Naruto's head went straight to the side facing the archway going out of the room. Ka-tan. Someone's at the door. He watched as the red head came out of the kitchen, through the living room and out the archway that exited into the hallway where the front door was situated, just out of the boy's eyesight with grace that only a ninja would have. Kushi-chan, how are you? Slam. The door shut. The muffled voice of the unwanted man wandered into the house through the now closed door because of its volume. Ah, Kushina-chan. It's just me. Not some old pervert or something. You're not just an old pervert, Jiraiya, you're a super pervert. Naruto's brows furrowed at this, his eyes dilating. Well, can't you let this super pervert in then? Only if you don't do anything. Fine. Click. Naruto could hear the shuffling noises made as the pervert came into the house and his mother locked the door. The smell was something he hadn't smelt for over 2 years and it almost brought tears to the teenager inside the baby. So where is this famous Naruto, the boy who didn't die from the Kyuubi. It was his voice, his scent, his large shadow on the floor, his everything. All he had to do was. Jiraiya, don't you dare start spreading such rumors. Fine, fine. When the two finally came into the boy's eyesight and he forgot how to breathe. Time flew by the baby as his mother and the man started running when they noticed how he was acting. All he could say or think was, Ero Sennin. Naruto. Kushina's voice brought the said boy back to reality and he realized that when one doesn't breathe for a long time, they suffocate, so he took a breath. The boy was red-faced and puffing, his eyes dilating as he stared at the bulky white-headed man. Are you all right, Naru-chan? His mother said, lifting the boy out of the rocker, checking for signs of degrading health worriedly. Naruto just nodded, his eyes never leaving the white-haired man, now with significantly less wrinkles than when he saw the man last while he was being puppeteered by Kabuto. Confusion graced the eyes of the Toad Sennin for a second, but Naruto's mind didn't comprehend it. Was he born with those marks on his cheeks? Yeah, we think it's because he must have been exposed to the Kyuubi's chakra while I was pregnant with him. His whisker marks are why we don't go around saying that he was with us while we were fighting the Nine Tails. People could start to believe that he is the Kyuubi reincarnated. The woman looked down as she talked, not meeting either of the male's eyes. This answer brought Naruto out of his shock. I still have the whisker marks. I thought they came up when I became a Jinchuriki. I see why you don't want anyone who doesn't already know that Naruto-chan wasn't hidden away during the attack, but instead on the front lines ready to be made into a Jinchuriki, Jiraiya said, his eyes flickering between the mother and child. Jiraiya finally put his attention onto the baby. Hey Naruto-kun, I'm your big daddy, Jiraiya-sama. You're still Ero Sennin to me. Can I pick him up? His head turned to the bloody habanero whilst his arms froze in mid-action. That's a good question. Her voice was cold and collected, almost as if she had to really consider the question. Why are ya being so cold, Kushi-chan? 'Cause you haven't shown up in months. Naruto's already over 3 months old and you haven't even met the boy you ended up naming till now. Jiraiya's sweat dropped. Is she still hormonal or something? I feel sorry for Minato. I'm going to assume that as a yes. He said as he took the baby out of the woman's arms. As soon as Naruto was in the Sennin's hands, he didn't let go, not for hours. His small hands grasped tightly on Jiraiya's clothes. The boy couldn't stop crying in the man's arms as his scent, the sound of his voice and his chakra overwhelmed him straight away, and when his mother went to take him away, he refused to let go. All the Uzumaki could do was cry out, you're alive, again and again. Calm down, calm down. Kushina prided as they sat on the lounge trying to calm the boy. I think you're making him cry even more. Well, it's not me. You're the one holding him, pervert. Yeah, but he didn't want to go back to you. Quote. Does he usually do this? Number. Kushina looked at her hands in her lap, fiddling uncomfortable with them. He's never been very normal compared to all other children I've seen. The questioning look on the man's face as the two sat on the lounge made the woman explain. He started baby talk almost as soon as he opened his eyes. He simply knows how things work by looking at them once and even tries to make them work himself, he replies. What do you mean by that? He tried to open a doorknob when he was 2 months old. And that was the first time he'd been out of the safe house Minato put us in. The baby's crying had slowly quieted as the Sennin started rocking the baby. Both glad to have the silence again. They stayed like that until the blonde-haired baby had fallen asleep, neither bothering to put him to bed in case he woke up again. At 2 months of age. That's impressive. Usually they work that out around 2 to 3 years. The spy master finally said, his voice somewhat quiet. Ha, what? That late? Kushina looked down as her fists tightened, her eyes wide with fear for her baby. They sat in silence again before she continued, I don't want him to be a genius, I want him to be a normal little boy. Click. Both eyes wandered to the hallway as they heard the door unlocking, opening, someone coming in, closing, and then locking again, voices wandering up the hallway. Minato-sensei, I haven't seen you in forever and the one time I do you're. Minato froze, making Kakashi stop behind him. Sensei. Minato, Kakashi-kun. Jiraiya nodded his head as a greeting, hiding his slightly widened eyes as he looked down at the boy in his arms. Jiraiya-sensei. Jirai, ya, are you alright, Kakashi-kun? You look like you've seen a ghost. Jiraiya looked up from the baby in his arms to the young ninja prodigy. Oh, you don't know just how many I've been seeing. Worry graced the faces of all the adults in the room. It's not like I'm seeing things now, so don't worry. The boy gave his not yet signature eye smile before his eyes wandered to the sleeping baby. The action gaining some surprised glances from the others. Wasn't Kakashi usually brooding about anything and everything, mainly Obito? The two newcomers sat down on the two singular couches in the cream-colored lounge room. So, what are you doing here, sensei? Minato finally asked after a moment of silence. Can't I drop in once in a while? He grinned. Minato's eyes lowered to his son. I see Naruto has already got you wrapped around his finger. After a lot of crying. Kushina smiled, sadly. The woman quickly explained what had happened when Jiraiya had arrived early that morning and that the boy had yet to let go of the man. I can't believe that he'd already worked out how to open a doorknob when he was only 2 months old though, that's genius. Why is it so genius, Jiraiya? He still couldn't open the door, so how does that help? Kakashi questioned, his eyes never left the young Naruto's face. Knowledge is power at his age, the white-haired man explained. At this age they don't have the muscles to physically do anything, but their ability to learn is massive. Babies, toddlers and children can learn a whole language within 4 to 6 years. You may not have been very strong when you were 6, but you already had the mind and abilities of a 12-year-old genin. Knowledge is much more than power at such a young age. Minato noticed how the young Junin's eyes glazed over as he thought about something unbeknown to the others. Naruto started squirming in the Senin's arms, waking up. The glazed look in Kakashi's eyes disappeared as the baby's eyes roamed around the room, widening as they meet both Kakashi's and Jiraiya's. So it wasn't a dream, but Kakashi wasn't here before. Hey, what's everyone doing here? Naruto watched as Jiraiya's blows creased as the men looked him in the eye. What's going on? Do I have something on my face? He noticed as both Kakashi's and the Senin's eyes furrowed even more. Grr. Quote, quote. Ha ha ha. He couldn't hold the silence any longer, and the warmth in his face wasn't helping with the embarrassment either from his tummy rumble. So instead he just laughed, his arm trying to find its way to scratch the back of his head from habit. I'm not really as hungry as I sound, Dadbao. Grr. Well, maybe I am. Hey, why isn't anyone talking? Naruto's eyes widened in realization, they were studying him. That was not good. His eyes flashed between the 4 ninjas. His mother looked fearful. His father was, well, in Hokage mode. Kakashi looked confused. Hey, I heard that you were a prick like Sasuke when you were young, so why are you showing emotion? And Jiraiya seemed to be in spy mode. What were they expecting? Naruto to jump out of Jiraiya's arms and yell, I'm Uzumaki Naruto and I come from the future. Like that would happen. Or, right now, Uzumaki Naruto hated the extremely slow mind of Namikaze Naruto, or you expect me to jump out and say I'm the 9-tailed fox, shit. The Yondaime breathed in harshly. I know. Minato suddenly changed his mind, almost as if he hadn't even wanted to say what he was originally going to say. His eyes flashed between Kakashi and Jiraiya, you two should stay over for dinner so we can talk. His voice faded to a whisper on the last word. Everyone agreed. Dinner was quick and quiet. Uncomfortably quiet to the baby, as during the time, both Kakashi's and Jiraiya's eyes kept glazing in and out of focus as if they were remembering something or having a deep internal debate. It scared Naruto to his core and he didn't like the feeling one bit. Oh, how he wished to grow up. Hey, the bloody habanero's voice made the boy jump out of his skin. I'll go put Naru-chan to bed, then we can talk. Naruto's wide eyes wavered between each of the ninjas before he was taken away by his ninja mother, who headed upstairs. So this is what it's like to be in a family of ninja. Life at the civilian orphanage wasn't as tense as this. Dot colon colon 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 dot. 4 months. Naruto stared at his babysitter for the day before turning back and glaring at his parents. They were currently in the Hokage's office and he was being handed over to the Sandaime for the day. Oh, the joys of having a Hokage as a father, free babysitter. But that wasn't the reason why the boy was mad. From what Naruto had seen, and didn't really expect, was that when there were 2 Hokages alive, they both held the position and shared the workload. He had originally grown up in a time where there was only ever one Hokage at a time. Gigi, Tsunade, and when he became the Hokage, Tsunade just pushed all her work onto him and retired, saying that only one Hokage was needed at a time, and she would come in if he needed help on anything other than paperwork. Apparently she lied. Once a Hokage, forever a Hokage, until you did something like Danzo, the never-announced Rokudaime Hokage before he'd been killed, had done. The truth that Tsunade hid, knowing that he didn't know any better, was that she was meant to help do all the work. One would be doing a mission or their own thing while the other would be in the office. In other words, while one, aka his father, was out doing, who knows what, the other, the Sandaime, who was in the office had to do the paperwork and in this case, be the babysitter. Naruto was finally starting to understand a little bit of what it must have been like for Konohamaru to be the grandson, or son in his own case, of a Kage. He wondered if it was anything like this for Gaara and his siblings. Then again, Naruto couldn't name a time when there were 2 Kages alive at the same time other than the 4th Shinobi War. Dead people coming back to life doesn't really count even if they are in their right mind. Thank you, Hiruzen 2-chan. The redhead chirped, giving the old Hokage a hug, half squishing the boy in the old man's arms. Yes, Kushina. I wish you too, luck on your mission. Hiruzen said, quickly returning the hug before the habanero came out. Don't be so formal. It's only to get out of town. I'm going stir crazy being stuck on maternity leave for so long. She excitedly pulled herself out of the Sandaime's brace to wave her arms about to show just how close she was on the brinks of insanity, though most would debate that she had crossed that line years ago. And this one, she pointed an accusing finger at her husband, wouldn't let me go alone. I'm not that useless without the Kyuubi. She whined ever so casually, putting her attention onto the blonde Hokage, forgetting that she had originally been talking to the older one in the room. I did live 8 years of my life without it. But you've lived almost 20 with it. Minato finally decided to butt into Kushina's raid. Come on. The blonde man gave a quick kiss to his son and a goodbye before dragging his talkative wife out of his office. Naruto stared wide-eyed as the door shut. Since when was Kurama mentioned so damn casually? How am I meant to know? I don't know. Now, Naruto-kun, Gigi, said as he put his figure into arm's reach, Naruto grabbing it. What are we going to do with you? I have genin teams coming in soon to get their missions, so until then there's not much to do other than paperwork or the rocker in the corner. So, what's your choice, help with the Gigi's work or the toys? If Naruto had control of his eyes, he would have rolled them, rhetorical question, and a stupid one at that. I've been Hokage before, Gigi. There is no way in the world that I am doing another bit of paperwork by choice. It took a long hour before the first genin team decided to show their face, and by that time, Naruto was bored. Singing along with the Smurf theme song really isn't that entertaining as it sounds. From the corner of his eye, Naruto saw Hiruzen look at the clock before starting to neaten the piles on his desk. Come on, Naruto. We need to get to the mission desk in the next room to give all the genin teams a ninja mission, he said enthusiastically, picking the baby up in one arm and using the other to carry the rocker. The next room was the same room that Naruto could remember getting his missions from before the Sandaime died. It was the same room that he had first met Konohamaru and the room where his first wayward mission was assigned to his team, the mission to wave. Ho Hokage-sama, who's the baby? A chunin asked as said man put the rocker down and placed the baby in it. I'm babysitting for a friend. This is Naruto. The chunin just nodded as Hiruzen sat down at the long desk, skimming over the paperwork that was on it. Naruto sat silently in the rocker for a good minute before he got bored of the silence and decided to fill it with something. The Orange Hokage is the best. Lalala. But the Orange Hokage hates being bored. Lalala. The Orange Hokage is the strongest ninja ever. Lalala. It was now that the first genin team decided to show their faces. And if the man doesn't give me that rank he promised I am gonna. A boy's voice came into the room from the hallway before a thwack and a loud, ouch, was heard. Stop complaining. We're getting what we're getting. A girl's voice said just as the genin team walked into the room. Naruto could help but laugh at their bickering. It was so much like his own genin teams when he wanted that C rank. The baby's gurgle didn't escape the eyes of the team, Hokage-sama. The Junin said as he saw the baby just behind the man, he easily made the obvious connection of the boy to the Yondaime. Who's? Ba 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 ba, Naruto said, gaining the attention of the genin. Hey, did Yondaime-sama turn into a baby? Now that got everyone's attention. Just what you'd expect from the Inuzuka. One of the chunin complained, but his eyes didn't hide his curiosity. The boy did look like a replica of their beloved Yondaime, and since the Kyuubi attack, sightings of the man had incredibly decreased. Naruto just giggled even more. Yeah, I'm Hokage-sama, the Orange Hokage. Now that brought silence to the room. Maybe one of the words he said came out right. No. The Inuzuka genin yelled dramatically, not Yondy-sama. Thwack. Ouch. What was that for? The dog boy rubbed his throbbing head as he carefully eyed his female teammate. Naruto could see the debate happening in Gigi's head. To tell or not to tell, that was the question. So, out of boredom, he decided to answer it for his Gigi. Minato. Tutan. Minato. Tutan. At noticing the confused looks, Hiruzen sighed dramatically. This is Naruto. The now even more confused looks urged him to continue. Minato is going to kill me, he thought. And he is the Yondaime Hokage's son. == 5 months. He grinned. He grinned wider. He grinned even wider. He started chuckling. He started giggling. He started laughing. He started howling. What's with your son, Hokage-sama? Now, that look from the other baby in the room made Naruto laugh even harder. I have no idea, Fugaku-san. It was one of those rare days where Minato decided to bring his child into work. It was one of those rare days where, instead of field work, in which the Yondaime preferred, he was stuck in the office doing, well, the Hokage duties that the Sandaime and Godaime were always doing during Uzumaki Naruto's life. Oh, the difference it makes having two Hokages at once. At the moment, the Sandaime would either be training or out on some mission to keep up his skills. But now Naruto, having already fallen out of his rocker, was rolling on the floor in laughter. It was too much. Grr. But, Dorb, you trust your 5-month-old son to not hurt himself doing that? He is rather advanced at a lot of things, and I doubt I'd be able to calm him down at the moment. Namikaze Naruto was rolling on the floor in laughter inside the Hokage's office, his father's office. Namikaze Minato sat on his Hokage seat, whilst Uchiha Fugaku stood in front of his desk with an angry, and very talkative, baby Uchiha Sasuke as his arms. When the two came into the room, Naruto was calmly sitting in his rocker, playing with his fingers, but that was until the two babies noticed each other. The expression on Sasuke's face couldn't be recognized by the two elders, but to the blonde baby, it was easy. It was the exact expression that Naruto imagined would be on Sasuke's face if he had ever found out who the blonde's father was. Unfortunately, the revenge-stricken Uchiha was never around to find out in Naruto's past life, so now he simple found it hilarious, even if the Uchiha didn't know him yet. The elder Uchiha looked disapprovingly at the blonde baby. I would be worried if my children started doing such things. You have to learn to accept Naruto's odd behavior. Especially when you live in the same household as Kushina, everything's simply odd. I guess it would be. Fugaku nodded his head but still looked disapprovingly at the child. If I were you, I would have chosen a different wife, or at least calmed her fire down before marrying her. Minato's eyes narrowed as he retorted, if her fire wasn't so big, I doubt she would have even been a candidate as a girlfriend's, let alone wife. You really should have found someone better to hold a household together and keep your genetics strong. I like my choice of wife, thank you Fugaku. The Hokage crossed his arms, at least I chose who I was going to marry, unlike you. Your bloodline's going to weaken. I know that it will not. Now you can start on explaining why you are here, or did you only come to disrespect my wife? The man's killer intent rose far beyond what he would usually do in the presence of a child, shutting Sasuke's constant cries of, Bart but it did nothing to the laughing Naruto on the ground. Of course not. I'm surprised that your son is still laughing while mine is already trembling at the amount of killer intent you're letting out. The intent suddenly stopped. What did you want? 'Cause the longer you're here, the more we will just get on each other's nerves. I wanted to know the truth about the Kyuubi attack. Was an Uchiha behind it? Naruto froze, his laughter stopping immediately. Yes. Uchiha Obito was behind it. It's Obito's fault. Both fathers turned their heads to face the child who was on his stomach, pushing his body up with his arms. Did he just try to answer my question, with baby talk? Minato just shook his head. Kushina and I have no idea what he tries to say. The truth is that there was an Uchiha who managed to free the Kyuubi from its Jinchuriki and summoned it to Konoha. I fought with him. Who was it? I will order his execution if we can prove it. I do not want fingers pointing at the whole clan, it will bring trouble. What off trouble? The dark-haired boy yelled. It will make Sasuke go evil. Naruto yelled, much louder than Sasuke, though nothing came out understandable like it did for the latter. Uchiha Madara, or someone in the likewise, not anyone affiliated with the clan, probably someone who got their hands on a Sharingan during a war. Minato explained, the clan will not be blamed. Yahi! Sasuke screamed. Talking about the boys, Sasuke-chan can talk. How old is he now? Fugaku puffed out his chest with pride. He's only 8 months old and is already showing signs of being a genius, just like Itachi. He is not perfect with pronunciation but he can already to say full sentences and knows what he is saying. Minato nodded his head. How's Naruto-kun going? His first tooth started showing 2 weeks ago, now we can already see 3 more coming thought. He even knew how to open a door just by watching us before he was even 2 months old. And his speech. He's been baby talking since he was 3 weeks old. That's impressive. Children usually don't start baby talking until around 6 months. Sasuke started at 4.5 months. Hey, how about you and Makoto come over this weekend and the children can play? What did you think? I'll have to get back to you. Alright. Fugaku bowed once before shining out of the room, leaving the 2 Namakazes alone. Lifting himself off his seat, Minato kneeled down to be as close to the level of his son as he physically could. I have no idea with you, you know. Curiosity leapt into the baby's eyes. You bring such a fuss with all my subordinates that sometimes I just wish that Kushina had enough patience to stay on maternity leave for another year, but no, she just had to run off and forced me into letting her do some D-ranked missions around town, leaving me to babysit. You talk too much, too tan. But thanks for inviting Sasuke over. If I befriend him now, It will be easier to save him later. Naruto cried. I need to get ready. Now let's start with trying to sit up. Minato smiled as Naruto pushed himself higher in his mini push-up, now attempting to sit. I've been wondering when you'd try to sit up. There is no other way that you could have stood that killing intent that even Fugaku got tense, Naruto. Or should I say, Kurama. Naruto ran through the sewers until he reached his destination. In his outside body, he was a crazy toddler who was constantly begging his parents to let him start training to become a ninja, but in his mindscape, he was still the same 18-year-old young man that was almost killed 3 years ago, 15 years into the future. Yes, little boy, I'm not little. You act like it. You're an idiot. No more. Bastard. Ka-chan doesn't let me use that word yet. See, you're a little boy. No, I'm not. The Kyuubi rolled his eyes, ignoring his comment. I thought I told you that you need to start training again. This seal is not going to last until you become a proper ninja again. Naruto cursed under his breath. I can't. 2-chan won't let me out of his sight. You just have to make do then. The Yondaime's seal will only last a few more years, and that is without my resistance. About that, I've been wondering why you've been so cooperative. The young man rolled his eyes when he got no reply, but the ginormous beast had a point. If he didn't stop playing around and started training soon, the 8 trigram seal would denigrate before he got strong enough again to use the Sage of 6 Paths seal again. If that was your only question, then you can leave and find a way to start training up your physical body again. Naruto rolled his eyes once again. The beast always avoided answering that question. See ya later then. With a wave to his demon, he vanished from the sewer. Kurama cursed as soon as Naruto left his earshot. Hurry boy, I can't keep this gate closed forever. The genjutsu around the 8 trigram seal dissolved itself to reveal the gates being held closed by 2 of his tails and a corroded white piece of paper that once locked him inside the cage. Underscore. Asterisk. 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 Underscore. A 3-year-old Namikaze Naruto opened his eyes only to see darkness. He quietly rolled onto his stomach and pressed a button on the clock on this bedside table, lightening it up so that he could see the time. 11:56 p.m. Good. I hope Ka-chan and 2-chan are asleep. He closed his eyes once again and focused on his other senses. He couldn't hear anything other than the leaves in the wind from the tree outside his window and the scurrying of some animal or anbu over the roof. He could tell with his still sensitive nose that his parents were in their room. Opening his eyes again, he waited for them to adjust to the darkness before slowly forcing his tired body to get up. I can't do taiyatsu in here quickly, and I cannot, for the L of me, do genatsu. Nanatsu will have to do me. He whispered to himself, ignoring his mispronounces once he was standing up in the middle of his room, light, still and staying off. Now what did Sakura-chan say about Chaka? Ma, stuff, de theory of it, I'll just do it. The boy silently walked over to the barest wall in his room and placed his foot on it. Don't make a sound. Concentrating, he put his chakra into his feet before lifting his other foot off the ground, slowly making his way up the wall. Ma, it's not as easy as it used to be. He whined, slowly walking over to the wall next to his bed. Now if I fall, I won't make too much noise, too much. Now see just how long you can hold yourself there. I want you to be able to do this asleep within the next week. The toddler rolled his eyes. Fine, fine. If this is all I can do without making 2-chan any more suspicious, then I will perfect it. Dot colon colon 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 dot. At just one of the playgrounds in Konoha, and currently the busiest, a small blonde-haired boy stood at the corner. The playground was full of brightly colored play equipment and a lot of cheerful young children, running up and down, left and right along the play equipment. Trees surrounded the playground in an attempt to block out the joyful screams. The small blonde-haired boy that stood at the corner of the playground swallowed nervously. I can do this. He slowly walked up to a boy with short spiky brown hair and forced himself to smile. Yosh. I'm Naruto, Wan backquote to be friends. The other boy studied him and for a second, the blonde-haired boy wanted to run. He's probably judging me. It's not like he knows me anymore. Naruto started overthinking the situation, his head running a million miles an hour. Yeah sure, but, oh you have a funny name. He smiled. I'm Kiba. Hey, yours name, funnier than mine. Naruto's finger found itself in Kiba's face. Kiba, a dog's name. And Naruto a food. Hey, dear's nothing wrong wide ramen. There, nothing wrong with dogs. We're gonna be great friends. The 3-year-old blonde had to hold back a laugh. On you just don't know, Kiba, you just don't know. He grinned madly instead. It was the first time Naruto had domed to a park in his new life and it was also the best time he had ever had at one in both his lives. His stupidity that he had so often been criticized for in his past life was finally becoming useful. He found it easy to fit in with others his age and to a point, understand their ways. There were times where he felt like he was too smart for his own good but other times where he was outsmarted by people his own age. The play equipment turned into trees and vines, the ground into lava and all the other children into enemy ninja. The two boys had to get to the other side without being seen or touched by the enemy, which, in fact, was harder than the much older of the two anticipated, dodging and hiding from 20 hyperactive toddlers and young children all using the same playground with most of them also avoiding the ground wasn't easy. Kiba was the first of the two to get to the other side, so the game quickly became competitive. Uzumaki Naruto could not think of a time that he had had so much fun. Do you know the time? Ah. Naruto looked up to where the sun was positioned in the sky. It should be about 4. No. Kiba wailed. Ka-tan said I have to be home at 3:30. Naruto's eyes downcast. Well that means you'll be going. I have to get home before Ka-tan and Tu-tan get home. Iya then. Kiba gave the blonde-haired boy a wide-toothy grin, showing of his small fangs, as he jumped off the play equipment and ran off. Naruto smiled back but he could feel that tug on his heart that he always got in his old life when he was stuck in a playground alone. I have no idea when Ka-tan is coming home but Tu-tan will be home at 5. He thought aloud as he slowly followed Kiba's example and left the playground. I think I'll do some training before Tu-chan comes home. Equals. Underscore. Equals. Underscore. Equals. Underscore. Equals. Underscore. Equals. Underscore. Equals. Uzumaki Naruto had been training his Namikaze Naruto 3-year-old body for a month now. He had managed to perfect wall walking. He didn't have a tree. As well as the ability to silently make enough Kage Bushin, shadow clones, to fill his room. He still hadn't found a way to practice water walking, which was what he needed to start doing next, without his father finding out. Kushina was fine. She would be willing to teach the boy if he asked, but the suspicious looks the boy had been getting from his father for as long as he could remember, in his new life, terrified him. So Naruto wouldn't try anything too stupid. As far as the boy could tell, Kushina was currently in the middle of a C-rank mission and Minato was doing, well, paperwork. With both his parents occupied, Naruto had all day to himself, something he was starting to be thankful for. He never wished so in his former life. He was presently walking down the street in need of something to do. Kiba wasn't at any of the parks and he was getting bored training the same things every day. He could hear the sounds of the birds in the trees, not as loud as Chidori but it was close enough. He could hear the footsteps of the tall people around him and he could hear all their chatter. His nose, currently not focused on the smell of ramen, could pick up the sense of the anbu in the area. Well, that was until they got overpowered by the smell of flowers as his ears zoned in on an unsuspecting pair, their voices somewhat memorized, as he heard their odd gossip. Did you hear? Mebuki-chan, Hyuga Hiyashi's brat almost got kidnapped 2 nights ago. Naruto's head rose from the ground and his eyes darted straight for a brown-haired, honey-eyed woman who was standing outside the Yamanaka flower shop next to a blonde-haired, greed-eyed woman. His feet stopped so that he could stay in hearing range. No. Is Hinata-chan alright? His back stiffened. What happened to Hinata? You know her. Of course, Hanashi-chan. Hinata-chan, as quiet as she is one of Sakura's best friends. Ino is still yet to meet Sakura-chan. I wish she'd just leave that Amy Gaki alone, she's a really bad influence on my baby. Hey, that's Sakura-chan's mum and that must be Ino's mum. But why are they talking about Hinata-chan? Naruto hid himself behind a power pole in a Hinata-like fashion, ignoring all other noises other than the two ladies' voices. I'm glad Sakura hasn't met that Gaki yet, she already has confidence problems. Anyway, what happened to Hinata-chan? I heard Inoichi talking, he said that some Kumo nin tried to kidnap the girl, poor thing. She woke up halfway through the kidnapping and managed to escape his hold just before Hiyashi-san came to her rescue. Ino's mother, Hanashi, explained. So what happened next? I don't know. That's all I could get out of Inoichi and that was only because Hinata is Ino's age. Damn. Naruto started running, quickly getting out of hearing. Hinata got kidnapped around now. But she said it was the night of her 3rd birthday. That's another month away. The boy ran around the street corners with untrained speed, almost slipping at each one, until he reached the Hyuga compound. His ears pulsing with the beat of his heart and his breath coming out in short puffed, he darted around the gate guard and into the front training yard. He ran like his life depended on it, not even thinking once about the consequences or what he was about to do. That was until he was lifted off the ground by the back of his collar right before he reached the veranda of the traditional building. Hey, put me down. Hey, kid, calm down. You're not allowed in here. Naruto looked up, only to see the white eyes of the gate guard. Damn, security's been upped since the kidnapping. I'm here to see Hinata-chan. Is she alright? Kid, you need an appointment, you can't just race in, you're the Hokage's kid. Yeah, now, let me down to see Hinata-chan. He stopped struggling and crossed his arms. No can do boy, the man turned around and started walking back to the entrance to the compound with a once again struggling blue-eyed boy. Naruto-kun. Said boy stopped struggling, I recognize that voice. It's not the same but. Hinata-sama, you know this boy. The young girl nodded her head, long dark hair bobbing up and down with the action. Yes, I do. Can you please let him down? I asked him to come. She said with much more confidence than what Naruto remembered her having as a child. Once the boy was placed firmly back onto the ground, giving an innocent look towards the gate guard, he curiously followed the young Hyuga into the house. Neither of the two talked as they walked down the wooden halls, Hinata leading the way since Naruto had never been inside the walls. The paper and wood walls did nothing to stop the echo of their feet on the floor and it was as easy to hear everyone else's. Naruto's palms were sweating when the girl finally stopped at a door, pushing it open only to see the outside. She led him to another building, this time more solid than rice paper walls. By the time they finally entered a room, the boy was sweating all over. Why did she say she knew me? Why does she seem to trust me? We haven't met in this world. So why? His older mind screamed at him. The room they stopped in had a cream-carpeted floor, lavender-colored walls and a simple built-in wardrobe with white doors on one side of the room. The queen bed was made out of dark-colored wood and the side tables made to match. The brightest thing in the room, and probably the house, was the bed cover. It was white with bright purple frangipanis with the golden yellow-orange in the center. Naruto's first thought was that the room was not a child's room, it could be a tidy teenager's room or a young adult's room, but certainly it was not a 3-year-old's room. Hinata closed the door and quickly put some chakra into a privacy seal that Naruto recognized to be designed to stop the Byakugan's sight into the room and a second one which eliminated noise, stopping the perverted Byakugan from looking into the room or the perverted owners with the Byakugan from hearing any more adult activities. But of course the young Hinata wouldn't know its true reasons yet. Your name is Naruto, nay. The boy nervously nodded his head, his eyes on the ground and his head running through every reason why the girl would be doing this, but none of them would fit. Hinata bit her lip. Why? She took a breath before trying again. Yo, you seem to know me, so can you answer one question about me before we do anything else? So the girl hadn't lost her stutter. Then again, the boy didn't know when or how it came up other than confidence, so he couldn't stop it anyway. Yeah, me, what ya want to? Her lavender eyes suddenly filled with confusion, her thoughts impossible for the young man inside to decipher. He could never remember her being so enigmatic. Do you know my birthday? Her eyes downcast and her head was now facing the floor as if she regretted asking the question, scared for the answer. Yeah, 'tis December the 27. Why, everyone should know tat if they know you, unless they're idiots and don't remember the heir to the Hyuga clan's birthday. No, it didn't come out right. Why can't I speak properly? I hope she could understand me. Her eyes dilated at the number 27. When he stopped talking, she was now staring at him like he was a god, her savior, or something like that. But that couldn't be possible, right? She didn't talk for a whole minute, and when she did, it was rushed and excited. Naruto had no clue as to why. Tell me what happened to the Kyuubi. Say what happened to the Yondaime when it was sealed. What is your real last name? Her mouth moved quickly, her words blending together, her mind obviously running miles ahead on his. Naruto's eyes widened after a moment, realizing what she had asked. Instead on answering her, he opted for looking around the room, his thoughts going back to what he was thinking about earlier. It wasn't a room for a 3-year-old, it was a room for a young adult, a young lady, an 18-year-old Hyuga Hinata. What happened on your 3rd birthday? He finally said, in the same fashion as the girl. They stared each other down before simultaneously answering the questions. Kyuubi sealed. Yondaime died. Uzumaki. Kumo Cloud made an alliance. Neji got sealed and I got kidnapped. The two stared each other down again. Naruto's infamous grin appeared on his face just before Hinata's arms found themselves around his neck. It quickly disappeared when he heard sobs and her body jerked in a hiccup. Hinata, I was so lonely. I didn't know what to do. And the darkness. I was in it forever. He could feel her tears staining his shirt, but the boy couldn't care about it as she hugged him tighter. Please don't leave me. Please don't go. Her voice faded to a whisper at the end. Naruto's smile quickly returned, tears in his eyes, as he realized that he was no longer alone in this cursed world where no one knew him. His arms pulled her tighter as her knees buckled, pulling them to the ground. I'm not leaving, I'm never going, you're safe with me. Equals 3 equals 3 equals 3 equals 3 equals 3 equals 3 equals. Naruto had stayed in the Hyuga compound until 6, rushing home when he had found out the time. The two had simply stayed on the ground holding each other as if their lives depended on it for hours. When they started talking, Hinata told him that after she was stabbed in the stomach by the Kuchiyos, Edo Tensei Impure World Reincarnation Jutsu affected Hidan, she hadn't immediately died. Hidan's way of killing was with torture using the Jushinist sacrificial way. He was never taught how to kill quickly. She explained that after Sasuke stabbed him with his Chidori, he had exploded. She said it wasn't like all his other transformations with the Kyuubi, he had exploded like a volcano. The smoke, red, was the 9-tailed fox's chakra. The lava was dark purple fire. The fire came out with a mind of its own, burning everyone it touched. She said that she was the second person it touched, so she couldn't say anything else. She described the feeling of the flames, still clearly in her mind. It didn't burn like she thought it would, it only did so for a second before it made her destroyed stomach go queasy and white overtake her dark vision. It felt like her body had been pulled apart and put back together, and when she got back her vision, all she could see was black. For months on end, it was just black, small and claustrophobic. She tried to kick and punch, to roll over, to scream, but she had trouble with all of this. But that was until she was born. When the girl had got to this part, Naruto interrupted, finally asking about the kidnapping he'd heard about from Ino's and Sakura's mums. Hinata explained it in full. The Kumo Cloud Nin had snuck into the house with utmost care, silently taking herself out of the window. But what he hadn't been expecting was that she had been away the whole time, waiting for the right time to make her move. Much like in the original timeline, Hiashi had come to her rescue just after she had got out of his hold, killing him. She elucidated that the main difference this time round was that it wasn't on the girl's third birthday and there had been no fake alliance that would make Konoha give up the body of Hisashi. Neji's father hadn't died over this. The only thing Naruto could say was, "So, will Neji still become a prick or what?" So, WIWLL things still happen the same or, WIWLL they be shli te li diff and cause were, Aaron no da future. Naruto finally said, thinking back to his list of stuff to change and keep, mentally crossing off, don't let Hinata get kidnapped, December 27th in 3 years on the list. There was never going to be an alliance because the Yondaime is still alive. I heard they kidnapped Kushina-san when she was younger and he was the one to rescue her. They wouldn't want to be anywhere near your two-san when they know that they once kidnapped his wife. So, will Ka-tan and Tu-tan be an alive change, Deings? I guess we just won't know the complete future. Things will change a lot as time goes on. That's Sky, Hinata. Before the young Hyuga could continue on with her story of what had happened in her new life, a knock was heard on the door and it opened after a second hesitation. Hinata-sama, your friend has to go home now, it's 6 o'clock. Dinner will be served soon. Okay, Ko-san. Hinata turned back to Naruto. The two were currently sitting on her bed. I'll see you later then, just come over whenever you have spare time. We could even train if you wanted to, Naruto-kun. See ya, Hinata-tan. Naruto jumped off the bed and was led out of the compound by the Hyuga named Ko, his thoughts on what Hinata said and his regret on not being able to hug her goodbye in Ko's presence. Naruto cringed as he reached the door to his home. Damn, now I need to deal with Ka-chan and Tu-chan. Silently, he opened the door, squeezed into the house and locked it again, sighing heavily when his parents in the kitchen made no response. They didn't hear him. Tiptoeing to the stairs, he quickly made it to his room safely. Sighing once again, he turned around. Boo! And screamed. His arms were quickly seized as he was forced into a chair. His limbs were tied up with practiced fingers around the legs and back of it. He couldn't move, and the balaclavas over the faces of the two intruders just made him scream even louder. Now the torture and interrogation begins. Mafahahaha. The voice was obviously feminine, but Naruto didn't recognize it. Naruto silenced. He wasn't going to tell anyone anything. The two intruders were black, long sleeve, long pants, loose clothing and balaclavas over their heads. The female of the two had her hair tucked into her shirt, its color impossible to see. Calm down, partner. The male said. Her body looked rather masculine in her clothes, but her voice clearly stated her as a woman. Should we start with the torture to get it out of him or the mind games? That's a very hard decision. Not the torture. They both raised their hands and wiggled their fingers, getting closer with each step. If Naruto wasn't scared to death, he would have found what they were doing quite hilarious. It was the same that adults do to scare young children, maybe before a tickle fighter, in the way which the boy was taking it, which was not in a hilarious manner, pedophilic. No, go away. I have nothing to hide. I don't know what my dad's affairs are nor have any blackmail from my parents. Don't touch me. His eyes scrunched up, hoping not to see what happened, hoping for nothing to happen. What the boy couldn't see though, was that at his words, the two intruders froze, eyebrows rising at each other before shrugging and continuing what they were doing before. The one with the more feminine body was the one to talk. Naruto-chan, start talking or never. Hee, you're going down then, TT Ebane. Both the intruder's fingers got closer and closer. Ka-chan, Tu-chan. I don't wanna be raped. I don't wanna die. They touched him. Their fingers not in the places where the young man inside the boy thought they were going. Instead of his neck or privates, their fingers were at his underarms and tummy. Then they tickled. The boy jerked violently in the chair. No, 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 no. Was all he voiced out before laughter took over. Now, the not so feminine looking one said, stopping her tickling to talk, where were you? The tickles stopped for a second before they stated again as the boy didn't answer straight away, the tickles getting worse. I will ask again, Naruto. Where were you? Her killer intent rose far beyond friendly, and if Naruto could open his eyes, he would have seen the other, more feminine, woman give her a dirty look. Haha, who's, haha hee who are yo? He was about to answer until his adult brain got in the way. How would they use this information? Why do they need it? Us. The one who was tickling him stopped. It doesn't matter, yet. TT Ebane. Just answer the question or we will tickle you even more. Her fingers started wriggling in front of his face. Quote. The killer intent increased and the tickling started again. Haha. F5. Hee. Haha. Fine. Stop. The tickling stopped but the killer intent didn't. Naruto took a second to catch his breath and just before the fingers started their assault again spoke. As at the Hyuga compound. He said, his eyes not leaving the threatening fingers. Quote. The killer intent lessened, only a tiny bit. What were you doing over there? When the boy didn't speak, the killer intent rose again and the fingers got just that little bit closer. Playing, with Hinata-tan. Naruto really hoped that that didn't sound as wrong to the intruders as it did to his teenage mind. And why were you doing that? Cause, we're friends. Quote. Minato, that's enough. The killer intent disappeared from the less feminine one as the other spoke. Minato. The boy's brain started working at top speed. Namikaze Minato. Like, the Yondaime. Tu-tan. Naruto's eyes amplified twice their size at the realization. Hey. The man bowled off the balaclava revealing his blue eyes and golden hair, his voice going back to normal. You came back late, you're only 3, and we know you wouldn't talk, and it was Ka-chan's idea. I really didn't want to do it. Yeah, white. Naruto said sarcastically. I really should have realized when Ka-chan said TT Ebane. His mother quickly revealed her face and untied the ropes. You weren't going to tell us so we had to find out ourselves. She said innocently, hoping for the boy to see though it but of cause he didn't. So, what were you playing with Hinata-chan? Minato said suspiciously. Naruto stared at the man blackly, his eye fidgeting. Air talking and playing in her room, the wound was Rava. He nodded his head, his expression never changing. Naruto then, ever so innocently, said, Tu-tan. Are you sure you're not a girl? He blinked, and blinked again. How'd you lookin', sound like a girl wide-showed hair. Quote. It's called a voice defender, Naruto. It changes your voice. Ya know, TT Ebane. He just said you look like a girl too. Kushina said with a, you're going down, smirk. Minato made a dramatic, no. And the two Uzumakis couldn't stop laughing. You two are, booed evil. Don't say evil, Naruto. Both his parents said simultaneously. But, oh you are. Backquote. 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 It took a couple of days for Naruto to realize why his parents did what they did. Naruto's 18-year-old brows furrowed as his face betrayed his concentration, his legs were crossed as his hands mindlessly fiddled with the ankle-deep water. It had been a couple of days since the intruder incident and he was still trying to work out the cause of it. He could remember being able to smell the distinct scent of blood, sweat and hard, continuous work that existed on all current, off-duty and recently retired Anbu before the Yamanaka's flowers took over his scent and he first heard about Hinata's kidnapping. His eyes narrowed in realization. That scent was always near, especially when he was out without his parents and even more so when he was around civilians. They still didn't trust him. Time to add that to the list of things to remember when doing stuff, he cursed. He thought back to the killer intent his father made during their little prank. Naruto could easily say that he preferred his own innocent and forgiving pranks than his father's. At least painting the Hokage monument didn't hurt or scare the shit out of anyone. But why didn't the Anbu tell 2-chan where I was? Then the answer hit the young man like one of Sakura's punches to the face. The Byakugan stopping seal. He gasped. It was activated so it was bound to bring more suspicion than I already have, and with the addition of the added security of the compound. 2-chan must have thought I was up to something. He wouldn't hurt Hinata, he hoped. Equals. Underscore. Equals. Underscore. Equals. Underscore. Equals. Underscore. Equals. Underscore. Equals. Hey. But it was super duper scary, Datbeo. No. It is just funny. Hinata cried out, rolling around on her queen-sized bed, much too big in Naruto's opinion. Anyway, she calmed herself down. Your parents are awesome. Yeah, they are, Naruto said slowly, thinking back to the Anbu and the deduction he had made last night. Nevertheless, the room's seals weren't activated and he didn't dare bring up his thoughts while someone could very well be listening, or seeing in the Hyuga's case. Much better than 2-sama. Naruto started laughing at that. Kushina knocked on the door before pulling it open. Naru-chan, Hinata-chan, we're just going to sit in the gardens. Okay. Yep. The two silently waited for the sounds of the parents' footsteps to stop, meaning they were outside the building. Hinata jumped off the bed and ran over to her 2 seals, putting a little bit of chakra in them to activate them. Hey, Hinata, what do seal do? She giggled. A sound barrier and a Byakugan stopper. Only someone with a Byakugan can activate either seal. K. What's a Bakugan stopper? Hinata sighed, letting her head drop before giving a simplified explanation. It's just some barrier that stops Byakugan from looking into a room. Ah, okay. Naruto gave her his signature grin, just what he assumed. He was about to tell the girl about his father's and Anbu's suspicions, that he'd just told her the basics of the intruder incident, when he suddenly had a question that seemed more urgent. Ah, Avenue Equestrian. Yeah, ho, oh you talk popery. She giggled. It's called practicing, Naruto. Me. Sit in bed at night and practice using your tongue. It doesn't just come naturally. Ha, I diot it did. Cuz ba bai's jute started torquing. She giggled again, walking back over to the bed and laying down. No, they copy the sounds their mothers make. They learn how to control their tongues to make sounds before they learn language. She explained, looking at the roof. They start doing this around 6 months of age and they say their first word and knowing what it means, around 1 year of age. Oh, yup, and I'm guessing you just started talking as soon as your mouth started moving. Ah, yeah, I eared 2-tan saying dat I started ba by torque when I was dewey weeds. 3 weeks. Idiot. She gave him a small smirk. A very early start then. And I said my first D word when I wad, too. 2 months. Years. She giggled. Wow. Then you're a late starter then. Hey. Even Kawama didn't know when ba bai start talking. And I didn't know ho. How do? Oh you know all this babby Steve. Anyway, start practicing tonight. I want to be able to have a normal conversation with you soon. Everyone here thinks I'm a genius with language because of my vocab is too advanced for my age. She brushed his question off. Naruto jumped from his spot on the bed and tacked the younger girl, of cause. Hey, the purple-haired girl laughed, trying to push herself onto of him, both rolling around on the bed for a good 5 minutes, laughing and giggling. She finally tired out and Naruto pushed himself on top. Ha! I win! Naruto yelled, his arms going into the air before landing again, to hold himself up, on either side of the younger girl. MHMN. He grinned, his eyes closing. Hinata went red when her adult mind finally comprehended the no longer innocent position the two were in, but this time, like her younger self would have, she didn't look away, enjoying looking at the boy's cheery younger face, hoping for it to return to the older one she remembered. Ya know, Hina, it is not good to have those thoughts at your age. Naruto smirked as she came out of her thoughts and became even redder. He had deepened his high-pitched voice and managed to pronounce his words right. The girl quickly pushed the boy off her and sat up. Anyway, when did you decide to grow your hair long again, instead of the cute little Harem cut you had when you were young? The blonde's smirk didn't leave his face as he said his not-too-innocent statement about her waist-length hair. Shut up. Is it 'cause I like it? Like I said, shut up. Naruto gave an unmanly giggle. So continuing from the other day. Already lost your lisp? Fine. She jumped off the bed, brushed herself down.